Hey there, hi there, ho there, and welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where, despite head colds and other maladies, we will endeavor to bring you the joy and excitement of view of our women's athletics as we see it and as we know it and what has happened. And we do have events to talk about. We've been waited a long time to get to this point of the year where there are actually scores and activities to relate to you of events that we have seen and followed for. Uh, the three kind of major sports we cover here in the fall, of course, that of course being volleyball and also women's soccer and field hockey, and uh, so we will get to that later on in the broadcast. But right now, let's go ahead and introduce the crew. Today we have three on board. As Case had to back out to not a specific reason I ever saw. He just said he couldn't make the broadcast today. And Daryl is hoping to join us, but not positive she's going to be able to later. She is, of course, obviously out looking at dresses and other things that are going to be involved in her wedding.
Like taking them for adjustments, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I guess you'd have to look at them to adjust them.
for
Maybe so.
alterations. Yeah.
Yeah.
So normal
Never,
part of that process, I presume.
never had to go through that
Yeah.
myself, but it's when in the biggest thing I had to worry about was the debate on whether we were going to get nice shoes to go with the tuxes that we rented. Uh, I was against it, but I got outvoted by my wedding party. So I wore store ordered shoes for my wedding. Yahoo! But fun today, good crew today. That melodic voice you just heard there earlier was Jeff McAdams. Jeff catches up with you. What's going on, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. Work is work, and got to go see volleyball last week, so that was fun. And the red and black scrimmage. I'll talk about that a little more later. And looking forward to season opener there Tuesday night down at the KFC Yum Center. Season opener, by the way, for the whole nation. We are the first. We're this. Well, technically, we'll be the second game, second match because Kentucky and Nebraska will play first. But late night at the KFC Yum Center on Tuesday. So
Always a fun time to play in the Yum for volleyball. I've been fortunate enough to attend several of those and love to go to them. I haven't quite decided yet on the Tuesday outing or not. A lot of it, basically, honestly, is just going to depend on how I feel. Uh, because when your nose is running all the time, I'm not fast enough to always catch it. How about that? Also in the house with us, Jared Anderson. Jared jumped in today in the 11th hour. He's our hero. He's the fireman on the ladder, saving the kitten from the burning house. Saved Cardinal couple by jumping in and doing an article for us when Case had to back out. So, big round of applause out there in internet land for Jared for stepping up and putting one over the left field wall, buddy.
Got it in 30 minutes before we hopped on air today. So glad I was able to get some field hockey stuff up and running real quick.
Always good to have people that can jump in and do that. And you've been busy this week, obviously covering the fall activities. Got some good pictures that we've been relaying to you on the website. I guess it's fun for you to be back down there on the fields and the courts of action again.
Oh, yeah. It's back in what I call my happy place. So glad to be back down there. Glad to see lots of sports. I haven't seen a Louisville loss across any sports I've been at yet. Men's soccer suffered a loss in a scrimmage about a week ago that I was not at. So I can keep my undefeated streak going so far this season.
And if you can do that,
not all victories, but undefeated.
Yes, not of
Yeah.
all of them were victories. One of them should have been a victory that
Yeah, should have been. But
wasn't. But hey, there's no losses. Nothing other than a zero in that loss column for me.
and we will get into that a little bit later on. Yeah, one that I think even the women's soccer team thought they had in the bag, and all of a sudden, well, up popped New Hampshire in a very crucial goalkeeping decision that failed, and New Hampshire was able to tie the contest up. But anyway, more on that later. So we kind of, as for myself, I'm in the throes of a head cold. I am miserable. I am medicated, and if you hear a light snoring on this end of the microphone later on, it will be me with the antihistamines that have kicked in and put me into a slumber. But I'll try to stay awake the whole broadcast. But let me reinforce the old adage: summer colds are no damn fun.
Mm.
Okay, and so and I even chose to stay away from a couple events this week because I didn't want to go up there and spread my germs in a small
Yeah,
enclosed press box without a lot of ventilation. And
the wise decision for sure.
yeah, I hated missing the opener for field hockey, but there will be other matches, as they kindly tell me. Don't worry about it. There will be other events. So there we go. Uh, but so we're gonna do a little something, uh, a return of sorts. Maybe not exactly a return, but where we used to do scheduling and Twitter on this show. I think I'm just going to kind of abbreviate that a little bit to. I mean, if you want to find us on Twitter or X or whatever, you know how to do it. You've been listening to us before. If you haven't, you can look for us on the right hand side of the Cardinal Couple webpage. You'll find the links there to follow us. But the actual scheduling of the major events we cover in the week ahead, uh, I'd kind of like to get into that a little bit to let our readers and listeners and such know about what's going on as far as volleyball, women's soccer, and field hockey in the upcoming week. And Jared has graciously agreed to review that with us. So I'm going to blow my nose and step away from the microphone, and Jared take it over.
Yeah, we're pretty much just gonna go over the sports that you'll see us cover here on the Cardinal Couple website. So actually, nothing going on today. Uh, College football starts up, which for me is exciting, but for us, it doesn't pertain to us. So we're gonna jump ahead to Sunday. A couple women's sports are in action. Field hockey has another exhibition. They're heading up to Bloomington, Indiana, for a noon start against Indiana. I don't see anything about a stream or TV listed with it being an exhibition. Most likely, we're not going to have one. May not have any true results either. Women's soccer is in action for a another regulation match. They're playing Northern Kentucky up in Highland Heights at 5 p.m. start time. This one is slated for ESPN Plus, so that is a paid event if you do not have ESPN Plus already. Monday's going to be pretty quiet, and then Tuesday is one that a lot of us have been looking forward to, and I think Jeff has been jumping up and down, ready to get to. We've got the AVCA Premier Showcase going on down at the KFC Yum Center, which is how volleyball's starting off the season. Kentucky and Nebraska will start things off at 7 p.m. I believe that's ESPN2. And then Wisconsin and Louisville will follow suit. They've got it set for 9 o'clock. Go ahead and anticipate probably closer to 9:30 start time, as they just have to change teams off the court. This is ESPN2. It's free to watch. There's still some 300 level tickets available for this, but the lower bowl is completely sold out. Should be a good one. Skipping ahead to Thursday, women's soccer will remain on the road. They're going to stay up north and cut over to Cincinnati, Ohio, take on the Bearcats. This is a 7 o'clock start time. Also ESPN Plus, so it's another one you're going to want to have to pay if you don't have ESPN Plus. Looking ahead to Friday, field hockey does start their regular season officially. They're going to be up in College Park taking on Maryland, and what should be a top 10 matchup. 6 p.m. start time here. I don't see a streaming listed yet, but we will update that as we get closer. So those are kind of the big three you're going to see us report on throughout the week, and some stuff to keep a close eye on.
Certainly some very challenging tests in there too. As you kind of recap what you said, that Maryland game's going to be something else. Wow. And the women's soccer team, I think, kind of at a point, maybe too early, but maybe still at a point where they're thinking to themselves, okay, we took a loss we didn't expect. We're going on the road. Let's see how this team responds to it. So it should be fun. But we'll get it started today with talking a little bit of field hockey. It was the kind of most recent activity that we've been able to enjoy, and that was on, of course, at Traeger and also at ACCNX if you have that ACC Network Extra. You could watch that. Uh, 8-0 win for the Cards. It was a exhibition, so it wasn't exactly the way a normal game would regularly go. They had a shootout at the end, which if you beat somebody 8-0, there's never a need for a shootout. But since it is an exit,
It's a glorified practice. So yeah,
maybe you want to put it on them just a little bit more. Say, line up. We're gonna shoot goals at your goalkeeper again. We've already scored on her 8 times. Get ready. But no, the Cards in their first preseason exhibition test, and actually they scored 7 goals throughout the contest, and then uh, the way that I understand it, if you win the shootout, you get a point. So that was a total of 8 points for Louisville. Uh, I don't know if I understand that completely or not, but that's the way that field hockey does it, so that's fine. Went up against 2 different Bellarmine goalkeepers, and that one really didn't make any difference. We scored freely on both of them. Uh, Jared was out there taking photos. Excuse me, folks, on that. And Jared, just give an idea and an impression of what you saw in this early opener for field hockey.
Yeah, I was interested just to see what type of lineup changes we were going to see. Departure of several big players last year, and a lot of those players were those fifth year COVID eligibility ones. A lot of names to replace. We're going to see a couple transfers that are going to probably make an impact, including a goalkeeper who did not dress yesterday, and then we've got a slew of freshmen on the team this year. I think we're going to see a lot of them get quite a fair amount of playing time. Really going to rely heavily on some scorers such as Amy Plum, who did score yesterday. Riley Wollerton scored a handful. I think she recorded a hat trick. Izzy Bianco looks like she's going to play a little bit more of an offensive midfield role this year. Chloe Plum, Amy's sister's back again, another big time offensive scorer. This team definitely looks like it's got more offensive opportunities this year than they may have had in the past. Last year, it seemed like goals would come far and few between once we got to ACC play, which did become a concern. Defense still has a little bit of work to do this year, but there were so many big time defensive players that we lost. It's going to take some time to communicate and get things transitioned over. But I think we're going to see a pickup in scoring this coming season.
It certainly is very exciting to hear that the offense will be new and improved for Justine Zary and her flock out there on the Traeger Field. Of course, then again, let's take a look at it. It is Bellarmine. They are D1, but they're certainly not one of the powerhouses in D1 field hockey. A program that is ambitious, I think, in what they're trying to do down there on the Newburgh Road campus, and certainly you've got to hope that they can continue to get better and better each year. Uh, Obviously, when you start your season against somebody like Louisville, kind of think about this. Jeff, what do you tell your team in the locker room, like at halftime and kind of at the end of this one, where you were coming in outmatched, you had high hopes, and they got kind of handed back to you on a platter with a fork, and they told you to eat this?
yeah. You tell your team that this is a game like any other game. That they pull their So I was going to say pull their pants on one leg at a time. They will wear skirts, I guess. So I don't know. Anyway, the saying may not apply fully, but you go out there, you're going to play your game, and you're going to do your best. It's a beatable team, which is true. And then you go out there and you're gonna take this for what it is, and is a learning opportunity. And again, it's an exhibition match. It's a glorified practice for both teams. And so you got there and say, hey, let's go out there, let's play our best, uh, compete with them, and find out where we are, and use that to look ahead to the real season, where the points do matter. And that's you know you just got to say, it's a beatable team, but let's go out there and play our best.
And so I think certainly, Bellarmine never quit, but just taking a look at some of the numbers here on this one, team totals, the Cards got off 23 shots. Bellarmine got off 3 shots. Shots on goal, very important. Louisville had 17 shots on 2 different Bellarmine goalkeepers. Bellarmine had 1 shot on goal against M. Young, the Cardinals goalkeeper. Uh, Saves, Bellarmine had 10 saves. Both their goalkeepers were very, very busy. Kaylee Workman with 7 saves, which that had to be very impressive, Jared, I would think. And Louisville had 1 save. Yeah, and the statistics don't lie. The Cards had 11 corners. Bellarmine had 1. At what point in time, Jared, did you kind of lose your interest in the contest and start looking at the fans and the sidelines and stuff?
Well, it was 4-0 at halftime, which is pretty high scoring for field hockey as is. So, second half, I kind of relaxed a little bit. Still got plenty of pictures. Just spend a little more time watching. Got a chance to just watch how some of the new faces and some of the freshmen played. We saw a fair amount of playing time for quite a few freshmen, and it, you certainly question of how much playing time was just contributed to the fact it was a blowout in the scrimmage versus how much do we think we're going to see them once the season starts.
Yeah, certainly. You have to wonder about that because, yeah, you take a look at and they did put this information up on Stat Broadcast, which I think there was some doubt about earlier, but it was all there. And uh, you can see the long list of Cardinals who played this one. And then Bellarmine really emptied their bench quite a bit too, honestly. As you take a look at both of the extended rosters of the teams' time out on the field. And for Louisville, I mean, you had just kind of looking at the numbers here. Uh, 70 minutes was the most I see for a Cardinal, which is quite a few, but the 40s and the 30 minutes is where they got a lot of playing time for some of the subs and things of that nature. No, things to take away from this one, guys. Obviously, it was a win we expected. It was a win that didn't disappoint. Yeah, it was a win where scoring was done. Other things that the Louisville can build on all this one for the rest of the year.
Sure. Obviously, anytime you go out there and you put more points on the board than the opponent you're playing is a good thing. A win, and again, this is a scrimmage situation, exhibition, so not necessarily regulation, and it counts in the long term record. But still go out there. It's still good to do that and have the good feeling and results from it. I think what Coach Sauer and the rest of the coaching staff will be looking at is at a little more micro level. How did various players perform in certain skills and certain actions? That's what they're going to be looking towards, maybe more so than the whole body of work of the whole team. Uh, like you said, we were the favorite team. We were expected to win this. So I don't think you take too much away from the broad strokes of the overall win. You start looking at, okay, how did the offense perform and in what ways, and then very, like I said, the very micro level on that.
With the attack level, Jared, that the Cards had, They may have not been tested too much on defense, but the defense for Louisville really stood up and did a nice job. They pitched the shutout. They allowed very little attack action on their goalkeeper. That had to be an impressive thing to watch.
Oh yeah, I've enjoyed watching the offense, which is not something that Sowery's teams have been known for in the past, and I don't know if maybe that's uh, key from Aaron Schneidmiller rejoining the coaching staff, or Will Holt, who's got some offensive expertise in himself as a second year assistant. But yeah, the defense didn't really get challenged, which I did want to see more about what the defense is capable of, just due to a lot of new faces back there. Tatum Kroon seems to be taking that final defender position now that Julie Koweiser's gone. And then not having India Reed back there in one of those corner spots, it looks like maybe freshman Emily Eaton's probably going to come in and command a lot of the duties. Mia Duchars is still back there, kind of in a defensive midfield role. Great to see her still holding down the fort for her fifth year. But I think there's still quite a few questions on who's going to lock in on some of those defensive positions. And yesterday was not a challenge or a test to help decide that. We might see more with Indiana. I think Indiana's going to give a tougher competition tomorrow, and we'll kind of learn more about that. Offense looks to be good. Need to figure out converting on some of these penalty corners, but it seemed like every penalty corner Louisville had, they tried a different look yesterday. So just testing the water, trying things out.
And the Cards getting a very, very nice win indeed. Uh, this is what you love to see in a contest like that. You mentioned a scrimmage that went well. Next, the Cards will be, of course, going to take on an opponent they have a storied history with in field hockey, the IU Hoosiers. This one to be up in Bloomington, up there at Tobias Field. Uh, and they've got a nice little layout on that field. If you've ever been up to Bloomington to watch field hockey, I was fortunate enough to go a couple times, and this neat little pristine field hockey stadium just sits on this little hill. You go around a corner, you see a road driving up to it. It's like, wow, there it is up there. And you just drive up the road, park right next to the stadium, get out of your car and walk over. And from where we parked at, where you can usually park at, the visitors' bleachers are right there. So you just walk in. I think both times I went there, there were organizations outside collecting money for student activities. Now, you didn't have to pay them, it was free admission, but we did shed with a couple dollars just to kind of, you know, say, hey, good luck in what you're trying to do here. But IU, always been a fun opponent for us to play. This one a noon start. Uh, Not sure about the timing there, but anyway, that's what they've declared a noon start. No TV for this one. I believe this is IU's first outing, if I'm not mistaken, guys. Just so can't really compare to what they've done this year. Last year, though, a rough season up in Bloomington for the Hoosiers, 6-13, finishing 0-8 in the Big Ten conference play. So certainly not an not anything to hang your hat and build on, except maybe in the aspect of we can play a lot better than this gang. Just some thoughts and impressions, Jared, maybe on uh, what the Cards are going to face when they run up there.
I think Sary's just going to put a lot of players in different positions and see what they can do. And you're going to see different lineups together to see how players interact with each other. I don't think she's really going to be too worried about, oh, we defeated IU by a score of blank to blank. I think she just wants to see how different players handle different situations. It's Big Ten play, as you mentioned. They're a tough opponent. We've had some run-ins with them in the past. Just that's what exhibition is for. You play uh, teams that it's not just an intra squad scrimmage anymore. You're actually playing up against other Division One teams to see how you fare, get ready for the season, and I think the biggest thing is it also just allows the freshmen to go ahead and get used to a little bit of that college feel, because that's a big jump up from high school to Division One.
Caleb Ashore, head coach of the Hoosiers, is in her sixth season. She does have a familiar face on her staff as former graduate transfer Sasha Elliott is in her first season as an assistant coach for the Hoosiers. A lot of you may remember Sasha from her time on Traeger. So she is now a Hoosier right now. But is it kind of a crossroads, you think, for Bayshore guys? I mean, she's coming off a 6-13 season, 0-8 in conference. You got to kind of wonder if the powers that be up at IU are taking a look at the program and wondering whether a change needs to be made. Thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, 6 years, is certainly enough time to kind of get your feet under you. But also, it's a tough conference for field hockey. ACC is probably the tougher, but the Big Ten's pretty tough, and it can take a while to kind of build a program up. I don't know what state the program was in when she took over, but if it was in a troubled spot, it can certainly take a while to kind of build on that. It can take multiple generations of players going through. So I would be cautious about moving too fast on something like this. You get a little more leeway on some of the less prominent sports to be able to kind of take your time building up a program. Um, but I would certainly, like I say about a lot of things, is if you can see improvement, if you can see steps forward happening, then yeah, okay, let it go. I think a little bit, and but if you can't see where there are steps forward, whether that's maybe you may have the same win-loss record, but if the games are closer, that can be considered a step forward. So look at those measuring sticks and be sure to be careful about what you're measuring, and if there's forward movement, then it's okay.
Certainly, forward movement is what we want to see. If you're a Cardinal fan and you're hoping that they'll be able to go up and kind of take care of business on a nice little road trip up to Bloomington. If you've never been to the campus before and you got a free Tuesday afternoon, hey, just go ahead and make the run on up. You can do Bloomington, and I think we've done it in an hour and a half before. Just depends on how you make that drive to get there. There's several ways you can get to Bloomington, obviously. Beautiful countryside when you do make the trip up that way. I kind of recommend going through the French Lick Way and driving up that way. Just such beautiful things to see, especially the rolling hills and everything else that are there. Uh, we hope the best for the Cards up there, and we'll certainly have information for you on how that turned out in our Wednesday Cardinal Couple write up. Let's kind of move on, cover another sport. This one's also got a ball in it, but it's a bit bigger ball. It's volleyball. No, no, it's women's soccer, and the Cards had a match against New Hampshire. Unfortunately, this was a contest that didn't quite turn out the way Louisville had anticipated it to. It did look for some time that the Cards were going to win this thing with a 1-0 lead, but then what happened, Jared? A little bit of a goalkeeper. Gee, I shouldn't have done that moment, right?
Yeah, and from where I was, it was hard to tell if she had a misstep or just kind of fell on her own or what exactly happened. But our goalkeeper ended up laying down on the ground and kind of helped provide an open goal for New Hampshire to put the ball in the net, evened it up with just a few minutes left, and what was hopeful to be a win for the Cards ended up being a draw in the final few minutes.
Under guessing that you, of course, were in attendance for this one. I had to not make this one. Unfortunately, would have liked to have been there, but then obviously no consideration to going down and talking with Coach Ferguson days after the contest. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I ran into Matt earlier on, and I said if Louisville wins, we'll go ahead and we'll talk to the coach and some players, and if the result is anything that's not a win, then we'll go ahead and just bypass.
And certainly with the tie, 1-1, the bypass was done. And this one's kind of troubling to me in a couple ways. First of all, this this is a New Hampshire team that I think came in here very optimistic, but probably deep down inside thinking, "Hey, we got no chance to even stay with this team." And if you look at the statistics in this one, guys, without seeing the final score, you would have thought Louisville romped this thing huge. They had 16 shots compared to just one for New Hampshire. 10 of those shots were on goal, one for New Hampshire. The only shot that New Hampshire took was a score, and that was because of a, I don't know if it was a step or a stumble or maybe just a hesitation that the Cardinals goalkeeper went through, but she didn't get out there in time to get the ball. And very, very simple for IU, for the player for New Hampshire just to kind of kick it right by her and go, guess what? I'm going to score now. Boom. And all of a sudden, a lead goes to a tie, and neither team able to score another one to make a difference. But just some of your thoughts on this one, Jeff?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and I think it's one of the things that we sometimes talk about in soccer is that, and one of the things that some people love and some people hate about the sport is that the better team doesn't always win. It can sometimes be subject to these kind of vagaries and just kind of weird flukes happening because it is such a low scoring game in general. One fluke score can totally change the outcome of the game, like this one was. So um, some people don't like that. Some people love it as part of the game. I'm kind of neutral on it, but yeah, it is a little frustrating when your team comes out on the I almost said losing side. We didn't lose; it was a draw. But on the side of that that you or on a side of that that you don't want your team to be on, you want your team to be on the winning team, and when it causes them to not be, that's a frustration. So um, it's it's part of the game. Uh, it's you know, UofL, as I understand, I did not get to watch this one, but as I understand it, they had an opportunity for an insurance goal that they missed, and so you kind of look at that and go, man, if we got that one, it still would have been a win. It's why they call it an insurance goal. So that's also a little frustrating. So you take it, you learn from it, and you go on. We were hoping to see a bunch of early wins because the out of conference season is a little weak on the schedule, but one draw out of that isn't going to kill us.
And should not. I mean, it's a disappointing, but it's not a program wrecker. It's just like you didn't get defeated by 3 goals by New Hampshire. You tied with them. Okay, it happens. Uh, I'm not a huge knowledge guy when it comes to women's soccer terminology and stuff, but the way that this one was written up as the tying goal, Delaney Lappin, who scored the goal, capitalized on a heavy touch. Uh, help me out here, fellas. I think of a lot of things when I think of a heavy touch, but not somebody kicking the ball past the goalkeeper. Is this a soccer term? I mean, where are we here?
You hear the soccer term touches a lot. I don't know that I've ever heard a heavy touch as that, but it's you don't get a full kick on the ball. You may just kind of redirect it as it comes by, and that'd be called a touch. So, um, which is that what they're referring to? Maybe a solid redirect of the ball, but didn't put any solid kick behind it. So I don't know.
Jared, heavy touch. What's that mean to you?
Uh,
Keep
usually
it clean.
means that
Keep it clean.
yeah. I mean, heavy touch just means you're got terrible ball control. Usually, uh, can't keep it down by you. Typically, you kicking the ball's going too far out, or it's just ricocheting off, going somewhere off crazy. Uh, Heavy touch is typically not something you want to have in soccer, uh, unless you're just an outright attacker that just aims for the net every time the ball's in your possession. But usually, heavy touch is not something that would be good in soccer.
And this one, the second game of a doubleheader right there. And how was the crowd for the second game? Did a lot of them remain to watch the women, and how did they react after that goal?
There's a decent crowd out there. There are quite a few student athletes out there, just from different teams, watching, cheering them on. I think in this case, I posted a picture of Kara Cressy and Ashton Delati out on the just on Twitter and social media, and it was getting a lot of positive reviews from people. And both of them are big time names in their respective sports, and they're certainly a power couple. They continue to date into the future.
The Cards will be going on the road. Their first road trip of the season coming up for women's soccer to kind of close out the weekend as they will be taken to that old venerable I-71 and headed up toward the Cincinnati area, but stopping in Highland Heights to take on Northern Kentucky.
Seems like
Uh,
everybody's playing Northern Kentucky.
yeah, excuse me, it is kind of a Norse weekend, as you might say. I've never been to the actual soccer field in Northern Kentucky, so I have no idea of the layout or the facility or anything like that. But this one is going to be a 5 p.m. Sunday game. So if you don't have any Sunday plans, certainly could be a fun little trip up for you to go. I wouldn't think there'd be any admission, and you could probably get nice seating and see how Louisville reacts and responds as they come back after the disappointing tie. Uh, if you can't, as I mentioned, Jared, this one's on ESPN Plus, and you can watch it there for a fee. I'm not sure what. I think I've still got a subscription to that, but I'm not positive. I'll have to go back and check and see. And it probably needs to be re-upped. I think they're pretty good about trying to get that out of you each year. We'll just have to see how much it costs this year, because I did use it quite a bit last year actually, so it could be fun. But thoughts about this, Jared? You know, this is a team that obviously is coming off a disappointing outcome. What does Ferguson days and the other rest of the coaching staff do to kind of get this team back centered again, so to speak, and then to get them back on the path of moving forward instead of dwelling in the past?
The goal was basically an accident. It's not like there was a lapse in any type of defensive coverage, in my opinion. I think it was just our little slip up goalkeeper Phil, and offensively they were still aggressive, kept uh, taking smart shots. They weren't errant shots that were just flying around everywhere. They were pretty much on targets. Yeah, the tie sucks, but you could still look at it, well. We played well, and we pretty much did what we were supposed to do. Just the sports gods didn't like Louisville that night.
The sports gods did not like Louisville. I like that one. That's good, sir. And they looked down upon the Crevens and said, "No, you shall not win this game." And a bolt of thunder hit Karen Ferguson days in the head. No. Uh, Looking at this roster, obviously a lot of returning faces we knew and loved from last year and the year before and stuff. Who are some of the players, Jared, in your opinion, you've seen them play and watched a few of these like I have? Some of the players that are really stepping up this year and standing out and saying, hey, okay, I'm going to be a player this year. I'm going to be a major player on this team this year. Look at here I come.
Still for soccer,
Yeah,
uh, Carson Cherry's rising junior, or she just is now a junior, big time team captain. You can tell she's the go to player out there. Uh, I think she's really stepped up into that team captain role. She's I guess she's got a co-team captain and Lizzie Sexton, who you'll kind of see play on some of the wings. I think she's done a pretty solid job so far. Like to see Emerson Jennings get some more touches on the offensive end. She's got a lot of speed. She's proven to be a solid player for us when she's in. Mackenzie Gagley is a junior now this year. A few goals, a couple assists already. I think she's the leading points person we have on the team so far with the goals and assists. She's looking good. If Molly Cochran is healthy, her transition from freshman year to sophomore year will be fun. I think she entered concussion protocol the other night. So those are a few players that certainly want to keep an eye out on, and I think there's going to be quite a few freshmen that are going to come in and play some big time roles for us this year.
guys, if you're Karen Ferguson days, you kind of take a look at this one and go back to it. You do have another goalkeeper on the roster, a junior transfer in from Purdue, in Kaylee Kimball. And she's 6'2", which is very, very decent height for a goalkeeper. When you figure Aaron Floyd is I think like maybe 5'8", 5'9". Uh, do you kind of tinker with this a little bit and say, okay, hop on in there, Kaylee, and show me what you can do for 45 minutes or whatever?
I
Go ahead, Jeff.
yeah, I would be hesitant to do that. Aaron Floyd's been a great goalkeeper with us for a number of years now, and I guess she's junior, right? And I, it it was a fluke sort of situation. I don't think you want to punish a player for a fluke, by taking them out and swapping them out. Maybe give the other, this transfer goalkeeper some time here, a little, just to see how they do and be able to evaluate them. But I don't think suddenly go, hey, wait a minute, we're gonna switch goalkeepers because you let this one goal in. That was this kind of fluky sort of situation. I don't know that that's the right way to go for it.
Jared, thoughts?
I think Floyd's looked solid in gold.
Yeah.
Just the one slip up shouldn't cost her position, in my opinion. So I say leave her in. Maybe if it's a situation where it's 2 or 3-0, either in our favor or against us in a match coming up, then yeah, you could trade goalkeepers out at some point late in the match just to get some minutes for everybody. But no, I'm with Jeff. You leave Floyd in.
The guys are united and solid in their opinion. Floyd remains a starter on Floyd Street. How about that? My own thoughts on it. Yeah, I mean, come on. Let's face it was just an unfortunate thing where she just got a late step on the ball that got kicked by her. It's going to happen sometimes. That's why they always tell the forward chargers, never assume anything with the goalkeeper. Charge her until the final second. And this time it paid off. So, lesson learned. I don't think it'll ever happen to Aaron Floyd again in her career. I'm going to make that prediction right now. So, with that in mind, let's wish them the best of luck as they go up to Highland Heights, Jeff Wallace's old stomping grounds. Do you think he might come up for the game? No, I doubt it. He's going to be quite busy. But the other sport that we want to get to and spend the rest of our time on, obviously, is volleyball, with a very, very big event coming up Tuesday. Jeff, I'm going to kind of turn this over to you and cover it for us here a little bit and tell us, hey, what's going on down at the Yum Center?
Yeah, well, I'll mention that I was just buying my tickets for one of the away one of the early away matches, set of matches, actually, three of them at where Northern Kentucky, since we've been talking about the North all day. So yeah, they have a tournament up there the second week. So I was just getting my tickets to those squared away. But yeah, starting out. We started with the red and black scrimmage that we had last week. Was a shockingly small crowd. I'm not sure what happened there. It was added to the schedule a little late, so maybe people just didn't see it, didn't know about it. I did hear from at least one person that said they've been trying to come out to these in past years and never could get in, didn't get there early enough, so they didn't even try this year. I don't know if that's something that happened, that a bunch of people just all of a sudden decided, well, I'm not even going to try. And so then the crowd's small and many of these people could have gotten in. So I don't know. It was a shockingly small crowd from what I expected, but it's a great showcase as always for the team in intra squad. What we don't get necessarily from this is as much of a sense of who's really in the starting lineup, because they're kind of playing everybody to be able to have both teams going on both sides of that. But we did get a little bit of sense of that. I think a little bit in the third set. I think the lineups for the third set were basically starters versus reserves. And what we saw was the starters were playing a 6-2 offense. So you had players jumping across the net in the middle of the set. So that was a little harder to keep track of. But that's an interesting possibility for this team. We've got two good right side hitters with Reese Robbins returning for her sophomore year and Sofia Maldonado Diaz coming in from Arizona as transfer for her fifth year. We've got two pretty darn good setters in Ellie Glock, who's returning for her third season, I guess, and Naila Escabello, who's coming in as a freshman playing. So, those were kind of the positions I was really looking at for position battles, and it turns out it may be moot because if we play 6-2, there's no real battle for them. But great outing. Team played defense and scrambled really, really well. Digging balls all over the place. Atlanta Scott, we know, is extremely good at that. Camden Strand was all over the court, digging up balls, so she did a great job. And then, gosh, what else? Hannah Sherman did a great job in the middle in blocking. I don't think she'll start. I think the starting middles will be Kara Cressy and BK, but we certainly have a very capable third, if necessary, available there. So great stuff. It was a great outing. Upcoming is as I mentioned, the AVCA First Serve Showcase at the KFC Yum Center. The first match, 7 p.m., will be Kentucky and Nebraska. Should be a good game. I would expect Nebraska to win that, but it should be a good game. Nebraska's preseason ranked number 2. Kentucky's preseason ranked 9th, I believe, 9th or 10th, 9th, I think. And then we have the second match of the evening. Like we said, a late start, listed for 9, but expected to be later. And us versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin's preseason ranked 3rd, and we're preseason ranked to quite a bit of chatter from volleyball enthusiasts about the injustice of it. We're preseason ranked 6th behind Stanford. So a lot of volleyball commentators online going, that should be flipped. But yeah, we'll see what happens. That should be some really, really good volleyball with all 4 teams. They're all very good teams, and it should be a lot of fun. Exciting evening down at the KFC Yum Center. Late. It will be late, but a late night. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun. And then beyond that, we play Tennessee, and then go up to Northern Kentucky for Tennessee, and then go on the road to Penn State, and then we play a weekend in Northern Kentucky. So where I was getting my tickets.
Fun action ahead for sure.
Yeah. Preseason rankings of the top 15.
Yeah, I wanted to get into this a little bit. Too.
Yeah.
This is the very,
of
very
top 15 in the preseason AVCA rankings. We played 9 of them in our schedule. considered one of the toughest schedules in the country, among the top, third, fourth, fifth, something like that. So way up there. So this is a, as Danny Busby Kelly has put it a couple of times, Coach Busby Kelly, it's an aggressive schedule. And she says that with a smirk because I don't think she necessarily realized as she was putting it together how tough it was going to end up being. But it should prepare this team well for a postseason run. And if we can do well enough, obviously the goal is to do well enough to be a top 4 seed in the tournament and just play the whole thing at the KFC Yum Center. Be great.
Yeah. Tuesday, you got number 2 and number 3 in the preseason poll in town. Kentucky,
Yes.
which is, I think, number 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cards at number 6. So, yeah, what a great way to start out the volleyball season, guys. And to get it started with 4 quality opponents going at each other, one after another. Jared, some of the things that you think might happen in this one for the Cards, I mean, this is not a walk in the park for them. This is going to be a very, very tough season opener.
I think you look at the Final Four from not too long ago. You've got quite a few players on this roster that would have been, I believe, freshmen at the time now. When the undefeated season and losing to Wisconsin in that Final Four match was certainly quite frustrating. So maybe a little bit of looking forward to some revenge potentially. Maybe some chalkboard material. If I'm Danny Busby Kelly, I'm putting up all sorts of stats and figures and whatnot from that 2021 Final Four match, just to maybe ruffle some feathers here in the locker room and get people motivated, ready to go.
It's certainly something she could use to her advantage there. When you take a look at this squad, and obviously volleyball is a squad type sport where not one person can go out there and basically control a match all on her own. Although they can do wonderful things while in a match, it is a team sport. But is there one player on this squad this year, guys? Do you think that if she for some reason couldn't continue, if couldn't go on, that would just kind of devastate this squad?
Go ahead, Jeff.
I'm thinking no. I mean, if we lost Anna DeBeer again to an injury or something, and good Lord, I hope we don't. She's healthy again, fully healthy again for the first time in a little while. I don't necessarily think from a talent level and offensive production level we would hurt too much. I think we have other players that could step up there, but the mental and psychological aspect of that might be tough to lose that person who's been such a leader, such a hometown hero of the team. Similarly with Helena Scott, we've got again other DSs that can step up and do a really good job. I mentioned Camden Strand earlier. Beyond that, we've got Molly Urban and Jessica Drapp who are good DSs who can play well and hold their own. But losing that hometown hero that's in their final season that wants to get to the KFC Center for the Final Four, play on their home court, all that whole storyline, I think losing one of those two players would hurt from a mental emotional perspective, but not so much from an actual technical volleyball playing perspective.
Jared, Jeff, pretty much online here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's hard to argue that because this roster is so deep but talented that losing anybody, somebody else can quickly step up and fill that role. I think Elena Scott still has quite an advantage over anybody else in the country. But Jeff mentioned Camden Strand. Camden Strand looked quite excellent the other day in that libero position. I think it might be a slight step down just from where both of them are in their careers. But who knows? Camden could end up being at that Elena Scott level here in another year or two. So if anywhere, I think that would probably be the step down.
I jokingly asked after red and black scrimmage, do we have the second best libero in the country on our team? And I wasn't referring to Elena Scott. So uh, it's, Elena's, as far in my mind, she's cemented as number one in the country. I don't think Camden is quite there, but I think the way if she keeps up the way she played in that red and black scrimmage, I think those discussions will start happening for her.
It was a pleasure to hear not only El Glock, but also Anna De Beer speak at the media day that we had for volleyball last week. And they was certainly, they were the only student athletes that spoke at this media day, and which I thought was kind of weird. Danny Busboom Kelly was there, obviously, with them and spoke before them, and then the students were brought in. But none of the other sports had students present for this. Don't know if it was just a mix up in the wires, as they say sometimes, or a communication gap or whatever. But it was certainly a pleasure to hear both of them. But
Maybe they just didn't want to talk to you.
I think it was probably not me. It was probably Demlin. No, I'm kidding. I didn't mean to say that out loud. Uh, they just, you know, we were expecting to get some players. We only got a couple. I haven't asked any of the SIDs about this yet, so, and I may not.
Yeah.
Although,
Yeah.
was able to have a nice talk with Lori after the actual media day conference, and certainly told her that I was excited for a lot of this things going on, and she was tickled to see me back up and around and doing stuff. I'm glad that I'd be a press box presence this season. So, and I agree with her. I'm looking forward to it as well. As we take a look at, I guess, and kind of closing out volleyball a little bit, when you take a look at this last season that the Cards have, obviously, they were so fantastic in the way that things went as far as record goes. 27-5. Uh, they were actually ranked at number 2 in the nation
Mhm.
at one time. Pretty lofty things there. What do you kind of do? I mean, you were 15-3 in the ACC, obviously the toughest conference in D1 volleyball. Jeff, is it possible to even improve upon that?
Oh, sure. I think we had some weaknesses on our team last year, and I so far with what little evidence I've seen so far that I don't see those same weaknesses here. Um, Potentially, I mean it's a little obviously a little early to judge, but we're neck and neck in rankings with Stanford and Pitt, the top three teams in the ACC, kind of all right in there together, particularly us and Stanford, in both the ACC preseason coaches selection and in the overall ABCA preseason poll, like single digit number of points separating us in both of them. So it's a very very close call. Stanford lost a lot of production from last year, and they're trying to replace a fairly significant amount of their offense. So that's where a lot of the discussion is. A lot of people that follow volleyball are saying, "Hey, Louisville should be ranked higher because they're returning 95% of their offense, and Stanford's not." But different people see that a different way. And then us versus Pitt, which has been this multi-year long just grinded out battle of two very very good teams. We lost to them a couple of times last year, and including in the Elite Eight on their own floor. So it speaks, I think, to the importance of being able to play on your home floor and being in those top four seedings in the tournament. A full run through the KFC Yum Center would be incredible. I don't know that that's ever happened before, where the same floor from start to finish has been in the tournament. So it would be almost historic for that. So um, it's important. It's big. It's a great opportunity. This team is coming together with the talent and the ability and starting to mesh just really, I think, in the perfect year for all of this to happen. So hopefully we'll see it does come together and it is able to follow through on that.
Take a look at your top three in the nation preseason: Texas, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. What do all three of these schools have in common?
Yeah, Big Ten. Not Texas. Uh, Texas has a lot of transfers, as they do every year. Jared Elliott brings in lots of transfers to beef up the team every year. It's almost like a best of roster. Nebraska and Wisconsin, both in the Big Ten, they'll beat up on each other a little bit during the season. Wisconsin has a new setter this year. So that'll be an interesting. It's a big question mark for them, and a potentially a big opening for us in this opening match. So, uh, possibly, I think likely playing a freshman setter is what they'll be doing. So, an option there. Of course, we might be as well. So who knows? Um, yeah, lots of big, strong, powerful players is what all three of those teams tend to play.
This could be a very, very fun season indeed
Mhm.
as we get ready for it. And right after those three schools, three ACC schools in Pitt, newly added Stanford and Louisville in the top six. And then we jump back over to the Big Ten again with Penn State and Purdue, the first non one of those two, three conference schools up there that we know of will be Kentucky at number 9, and then finally Oregon makes an appearance at number 10. So
hmm Georgia Tech down there around what 13th,
they've got the Rambling Wreck at 14th, and
14th. Okay.
also Florida State comes in at number 20.
Mhm.
Certainly an opponent that we'll need to fear a little bit. Even Dayton in the top 25. How about
Yeah.
that at 22?
Dayton's
So
always threatening for that.
always been a tough program up
Yeah.
there.
Western Kentucky just missed
Yeah, they
ranking,
did. Boy,
effectively
they just
26th.
barely.
Yeah. So good for them. Good for Travis Hudson down there. Always playing above their conference weight. So yeah.
We look forward to it to begin indeed, but taking a glance at the clock on the wall here, and we are already at the noon hour, so let us go ahead and I guess roll into our final thoughts. Jared, what do you got for me on final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to Tuesday. I'm going to go down early just to watch the first match.
Yep.
But this is going to be some of the best volleyball we're going to see all season, especially with you got these two back-to-back matches.
Yep.
Should be a fun time indeed down there, certainly. And Jeff, what do you got for me on final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to making hopefully a few more road trips for volleyball this year than I have in the past. When I went up to Pitt last year, in the for the regular season match up there, it was the only road trip I made, and one of the parents, I jokingly said, "About time you made a road trip this year." So hoping to make some more. Like I said, going up to Northern Kentucky. Well, I'll go to Lexington. That's almost a no brainer. Looking for maybe one or maybe two more in there that I'll try to make, but some good possibilities in there. Again, possibly at Pitt. Some again, possibly at Notre Dame. Timing on those is a little challenging. So, yeah,
Jeff, we're going to get out on the road and travel with him a little bit.
yeah,
And it's always a fun time to get his reports back on those excursions that he takes. As for me on final thoughts, I'm going to kind of throw myself in that same campus as Jeff has. I want to be able to get at and do some more road events this year. I've been kind of unable to do that for the last couple of years due to various maladies and things that have beset my body, but I hope to get to the point where maybe I can get to go on some basketball trips this year and get a chance to even return to the ACC conference tournament. Always was such a fun event for me to go to in past years, and always had a great time. And hopefully we'll be strong enough and ready to go do that as well. And hopefully don't take this nagging summer cold with me. But I want to thank you everybody for listening today. It's been a fun, great show. Appreciate both you, Jeff and Jared, for jumping in and kind of help carrying me through this thing as I sniffled my way through it. And make sure and read these guys in Cardinal Couple. Make sure and read Cardinal Couple. Some doctors recommend 3 times a day as a part of your regular diet. You don't have to read it that often. We would just be happy if you read it once a day. But until next week, everybody have a great week of it. Have a wonderful weekend and go Cards go.